Hey everyone, this is Corey with Stafford's EDC, and here I have the Ochs Worx Lontra. You can see this thing is filthy because it broke down a shit ton of cardboard in getting ready to do this review, so let's talk about it. Eric Ochs has a lot of designs out there. He's done some stuff with Mass Drop in the past, and this might look familiar to you because he has a very particular design language. His designs have just never particularly spoken to me. I've never been a huge fan of them, but regardless, it was nice to get the opportunity to check this guy out, and I'm pretty impressed, to say the least. I don't know price point on this knife. I'm in the car here. I'm not going to look up price point because I'm filming, so can't do that at the moment. I probably could have prepared better, but that's okay. This is titanium. You have this fat carbon inlay on both sides, this being purple haze fat carbon. You can see it here on the lock side. And this has this wonderful deep golf putter milling that provides a shit ton of texture up here, and that's on both sides. The scale screws, as well as the pivot screw, have a purple anodization to them, as well as the thumb stud. Makes this knife look pretty slick overall and gives it some nice aesthetics, even though its actual design isn't my favorite. Some things like the thumb stud location I don't like. Blade shape's interesting, but sheep's footy kind of blades aren't my thing. It's like a spear point, but somehow it turns out to look like a sheep's foot. Not really sure how he accomplished that, but he did. Not my jam, but not a bad thing at all. Overall, though, this knife, for me having a large size glove, fits my hand pretty well. You can see choked up here, there's good jimping on the spine, that this fits my hand just fine. Even if I have to squeeze this in more of a hammer style grip, there's plenty of room once your fingers get together. I am like right up on that edge with my pointer finger, but holding this more out in your fingers and more of a saber style grip, this is pretty comfortable. And if you don't have fat sausage fingers like mine, this could be really comfy in your hand, that's for sure. Now, this has a hollow grind on it, but it doesn't get particularly thin, and I might have misspoke. It's a flat grind, it's not a hollow grind. So it's a flat grind, but it doesn't get super thin. The blade stock is not crazy thick or anything, probably looking at 0.10, 0.11, something along those lines for the total thickness here. At the base, then you have this wedge for, about half of the total blade length. So it cuts pretty well, but it doesn't cut amazingly. I found that this did get kind of caught up in longer cuts in cardboard. But overall, it's still sliced pretty well. You're just talking about pretty thin stock with a swedge and a full flat grind, so it's not going to be a bad performer by any means. It just wasn't as slicey as I thought it was going to be looking at it. It's M390. It's got great action. The detent on this, the detent was a touch light when I got this. So I did take it apart and clean it, and I added some KPL. And it fires out now. It's definitely a lot better than it was. It's still not perfect. Like, I can fail it. But you have to play with the detent a little bit because you have this tiny little front flipper on here. And it is designed to be a front flipper. You can see there's a lot exposed, but this jimping, it works. It works, but I think that it's one of the worst parts about this knife is this jimping. It's just not very aggressive. You can see the spacing between the jimps here, and there's really not much of a sharp edge to any of this. It's pretty well rounded off. It's just not, it's not square enough. It's not going to pick this up well on the camera, but these jimps have like a chamfer on each edge. So instead of it just being a rectangle, there's a slight angle at the top. So it's meant to soften it, obviously, and make it look a little better so the machining lines might not be as harsh. But I'd rather have the harsh machining lines that really grab your thumb than this kind of jimping where you feel it, but you can slide right off of it. And most importantly, with the front flipper, it doesn't really want to catch unless you catch like your nail on it. You really have to get into it with like the meat of your finger, or better yet, you can go like this knuckle right here, and that'll flip you out. But you're not going to reach around on this guy either unless you're really pulling back towards it, which makes it kind of uncomfortable because that is a fairly sharp point to be jamming your hand into, and it's just not comfortable to open like that continuously. With all that being said, though, it's not a bad knife. I mean, I'm talking about things that are quality of life, right? Better jimping. It's still completely functional. Better jimping would be nice. The blade stock being a little slicier, or the blade being a little slicier, could be improved with a hollow grind, but the flat grind's done pretty well. The thumb stud location, just due to the closed position, can't really be changed. I hate that it's in the path of the blade, but it didn't make too much of a difference when I was cutting with it, because I wasn't doing push cuts with this bottom section of the blade. You know, it's rare times that you're just using from my finger down. So it didn't make a huge difference, but it could, and that's something I don't enjoy seeing. But yeah, it's an interesting knife, and it's a knife that I found that I liked more than I expected to. This pocket clip is okay. It's nothing special. You get a decent chunk of knife sticking out of your pocket. It's mounted with just a single screw, and it can be switched for left-handed carry. There is a little filler plate there, which you can just see. You can just see the line there. It's finished pretty well, so it's not super obvious, but it's much easier to see in person. Yeah, just what I love is this golf putter milling. Now, I had an Oz Machine Company Roosevelt that had golf putter milling. It was much larger than this, and I did not care for the way it felt in hand. It's one of the unfortunate things about the Roosevelt I had, is that it had that milling on it. But in this context where it's at, it's super grippy, and it makes for a great little pinch grip on this. Now, if you want to just use 3 fingers, you can do a pinch grip, though this has the finger choil here, so I tend to go with my middle finger in the choil. Thumb goes right where this jimping is, or not jimping, the golf putter milling. And then pointer finger goes on the back of the blade, and you have a ton of control over it like this. With that texturing, you're not going anywhere with your thumb. This would be fantastic if the jimping was this aggressive. And it works out really well in hand, and this is a really good size for that. Action's good on the bearings. You know, overall, it's a really good knife, and it's just not for me. There's little things that I just don't like about it, but I'm picking out, you know, personal preferences here, not inherent flaws with the knife by any means. So if you like this design, by all means, go right ahead and pick one up if they're available. I'm not sure, as I did not look into it much. As I said in the beginning, didn't research it enough, but, you know, nevertheless, you know, this is the Ochs Worx Lontra, and it's not my design language, but somebody out there is going to love this. One of the local guys in our Instagram group, he loves his, and Kevin loves this knife too, over at Lefty EDC. So it certainly gets its love around, just not for me, but a good knife nevertheless. And that's where I'm going to leave this off. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and my thoughts here on the Ochs Worx Lontra. And with that, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care.